Alrighty guys, it's Tyler here from TOB Crawling. Here we have my Gatekeeper, and you might have seen some of the other reviews I put up on the Night Runner at the moment. So this is one of my other rigs. She's got a fair bit of brass work. So we've got up the front here, I have the brass SSD link mounts, also the brass knuckles on the end here. Might have a better vision there. So they're on there nicely, and then I've got the STRC brass C-hubs, and also the SSD brass pumpkin, which we're also fitting on the rear of this today, with the brass link mounts down the bottom there too. And I'll explain how that's done in a second. So other than that, this was not an RTR, this was a kit build. So it did come with all the hardened plastics throughout, which does stiffen up the car quite a lot. The shocks on the Gatekeeper, they're the brass ones in the kit, as you will show here. So you have the brass shocks that come with the kit. I'm pretty sure the kit version 2 has that as well. So some people have made comments that they didn't really like them, but to be honest, I can't see much of a difference from them to the standard shocks. If anything, these may be a little bit smoother, so no dramas there. The plastic caps on the top would have been good if you had metal ones. Cap here and a cap there. This also was plastic. I changed that to a year racing shock mount for the bottom, spring mount for the bottom of the shock. So still running standard rod ends. In the kit comes with a high clearance front links here, so which does help a bit. So I do like that. Also running just some cheap bead locks, alloy bead locks with some weights in the rims himself, and the Predator compound high racks. So got 70 weight oil front and rear. I leave my shocks at the front pretty soft there, just so you can see. That way when you're trying to crawl up the rocks and stuff, the front always stays pretty low, and the heavy oil, it doesn't want to spring back too fast. So that's pretty much as quick as it's going to come back, but by then you can always get the front wheels back on the ground and get up where you're going. Pretty much I'll get to it here. It's pretty simple to change the rear end of the car, because you don't have any of the steering in the way. Sometimes you need to take some of this steering C-hub or knuckle off, which is still pretty basic on this compared to some other cars. So I find the elements are pretty good for working on. Also, another thing I forgot to mention, the Club 5 racing brass 8mm hexes. Found they give you that extra 4mm of width overall, 2mm aside to the standard 6mm ones, and they give you that tiny bit more weight. The kit also comes with the metal ball cups for your rod ends, which keeps them a bit tighter and a bit snugger, and doesn't wear out the balls. You only just replace the rod ends, because when you run plastic both, like I did with my standard trail runner, the RTI I got, always both would start wearing out after a while. So it made sense to upgrade one and only replace one. I leave these plastic, gives it a weak point. So instead of wearing out your alloy or brass rod ends that you use, I'd keep them plastic. It also helps it slide over the rocks instead of catching, always having metal catching. So hence why I've still left the plastic element hardened diff housings here, front and rear. So I did have alloy ones on for the AR44s from Year Racing. They were pretty good, nicely built, had no dramas with the way they were built or anything like that. The only problem I had was going over the rocks, it tended to catch a lot more. So it gives you a lot more hang up points and a bit trickier to get over, especially when you can adjust the height of the Gatekeeper and you do set it at a low setting. So this is set quite low, but it tends to crawl really well like that, uphill. It descends really well as well. The cage body, did that at purple with a green interior, so I thought that come up pretty good. Put all the stickers on that come. Yeah, running a 1080 with a Hakmoto Year Racing 55 turn version 2. One of the cheaper brushed motors, but it seems to be a very good smooth motor, and it's fairly quiet. Got the Hobby Wing BEC. I think it's a 10 amp BEC, run up to 8.4 volt down to 6 volt. Hobby Wing 1080, it's always been proven as a good speedy and at a good price too. The Fly Sky and the Savox 1212, I'm pretty sure that is. Yeah. 1210, sorry. So that's a 32 kilo servo, the 1210, and it's been a very good servo as well. It's pretty fast. It's got some power there as well when you need it. Did notice the Hobby Wing, these do suck a bit of juice, so Hobby Wing didn't really like it all the time, so we eliminated that and just put the BEC in, and has been a bit better since then. So can't complain there. And also running the 12% front overdrive, or well, people call it underdrive in the rear. That's technically what it is, but it's the front spinning faster, so we'll call that overdrive. That's what it says on the box. But yeah, can't really complain. Haven't had any issues with it, none at all, and I've given it an absolute punishing. Shim the Diffs, as soon as you get them. I put one shim in each, front and rear, just in where the pinion goes. Where you see that there, you put it on the inside of the pinion gear. After you remove this crown gear here, you take these out, pull your drive shafts out, then you take this out, which is your crown, and then you pull the pinion out, put the shim in behind the pinion. Generally one shim is perfect. I have heard of people lately with the version 2 kits and the hardened plastics haven't needed a shim. This one needed a shim, and so did the front. I did do that and I haven't broken them. Also my trail walker, I shimmed that after I broke the rear diff. So since it's been shimmed, and I shimmed the front of it as well, I haven't broken a single one, and these are just the standard ones, and these cop an absolute pounding. So it's also your driving too. If you're getting jammed in rocks and trying to flat stick it out of a rock when it's not moving, well, you're probably going to break something on any type of rig you have. So also being mindful for that. When your tires do get stuck and jammed, you will have dramas and potentially break things if you try and throttle out of it. Yeah, not much else I can talk about there. I'll just get in and show you how to change the rear link mounts and put the new diff cover on. As you see, I had the old original one, just a hardened plastic in the element, and I do keep the top above the chassis plastic just to reduce any type of weight you want from the top. And the hardened plastic parts, they are pretty strong, and I haven't broken any hardened part, and I haven't had a drama with flex issues. So it's up to you. You can metal it all up, but I find if I keep the metal underneath the chassis, it's going to be a much better rig. Later on I'll put the low center of gravity front battery tray, a few other bits and pieces just to lower that center of gravity and see how it performs after I do those as well. But yeah, I'll carry on and get into this. Show you the link mounts that I'm putting on. Here they are here. These don't come with screws, so I've just used the original ones for the front when I did that. And they're actually machined really nicely. I don't know if you can see there. But they're pretty well done. So I'm quite happy to pay that little bit extra for the quality parts you get. I've never had a drama with any SSD stuff. I've run it on my trail walker as well. So yeah, we'll get into it. Pretty much you just undo this one bolt here. Put that one aside there. I have left the bolts in the back of the diff here for the new bloody hell, I keep forgetting the name, brass diff cover. But I did realise it comes with new ones, so I will just be putting the new ones in. Then there's just two bolts here to undo. There's one. And two. And as usual, the old one just fell down in a gap. There it is there. It's quite simple, just change the rear in a gatekeeper or ecto. They both run the same design in the rear. And if you do notice here, one bolt is slightly longer than the other one. And because that is, when you look at that, where that one's mounted there and there, it's actually a bit thicker here than it is there. So you put the longer one at the thicker part and you won't have a drama. I always take one side off at a time, that way if you ever need to remember or refer back to something you've just done, you can have a look at the other side and check if it's the same. If it's the same, you know you're always going to be right. So that just goes there. Put the shorter one, goes to the bottom of the housing, into the mount. If it wants to go in its little hole, it's not going to. I'll start it. With a 2mm MIP, I use the MIP brand. I think they're a great driver. Never had an issue with these drivers. I've tried a lot of cheap different ones, cheaper options. I always go for the cheapest option with everything before I try something that's cost effective, because I may find something that's cheap and pretty good quality and can recommend it to anybody else. But it's usually the saying, you cry once, buy once. Most of the time things are more expensive for a reason, because it is usually better quality. So you do get what you pay for. So I think you guys get the gist of it. It's quite easy to change over here. Pop the old screws in there. Put the smaller one where it's a bit thinner on the brace. And the longer one goes in the other end, obviously. I don't know if you noticed before, but I did put a standard plastic cup there, only just to stop this flexing and help hold the rigidity of the plastic clamping together, so it doesn't clamp too far, but it just pinches out enough to hold it there tight. So if you don't ever get the brass mounts here, you can always just put one of those in the middle, or you may already know that already, but that's what I do, just to keep it that bit stiffer and stop any bit of flexing or moving in between there. So one more here. It's always, it's a very good, nice tight fit as well, so you don't have any dramas with that being too loose or anything. because like I said before, the SSD guys, I have never had a drama with their stuff. Always been really good. Can't complain. It's quite a long screw there. Thought I was working on a trail walker for a second there. It's got to go to the outside, otherwise it doesn't work efficiently. I did find that weird too when I was building it in the kit, that these are on the outside, not the inside, as you can see, because the front is different. See, they go on the inside, like most crawlers, they all go on the inside. But with the rear sway bar on the gatekeeper, they've put them on the outside. It tends to work. Like I say, I haven't had any dramas. So I'll get to it. I'll finish the other side and get back into it. Alright guys, all done with the rear link mounts. As you can see there and there, they're matched up perfectly. No complaints of anything they've done here. Threads were fine, all correct holes, and everything is basically as if it was standard, but now it's brass. So give me a couple extra grams there. Now we'll carry on with the diff cover. Just imagine that was already on there and I unscrewed that. You just pull these 4 bolts here out. There's 4 here. Sometimes they slide out, sometimes they're stuck in there. Sometimes you can pull them out. It is a bit better when you can just pull them out, but sometimes you just got to unscrew them. Yeah, these ones are being stubborn, so we'll just unscrew those. Oh, that one wants to come out. Like I said before, these MIPs, they're actually really great. I don't think I've ever stripped a screw with a MIP, to be honest. They're pretty good, very tight fit on the Allen keys, which I was quite happy with. Okay, that one's just spinning in there, we'll pull that out, hopefully. Get a grip on it. There we go. Different angle. Pull out this brand new one we have here. It's the same process for the front as well, except there's a shock you got to undo at the top there. I don't know if you can see that. Right up the top. Just there. Of the mount. You undo that and that bolt, and then you can take these 2 off. You generally have to take the tyre off and turn the wheel, get it at a funny angle, and you'll be able to easily undo it. Okay, they've given us an extra bolt with this. Not sure why, it's only got 4 bolts, but anyway, it's always good to have spares. Pop that there, skid to the bottom, and it is such a snug fit there. As you can see, it does not want to come back out. Here we go. It is a nice tight fit. Once again, as you can see, this has been machined really well. Good finish, nice edges. Very well done. So all the SSD products I have put on all my cars, never had a problem, like I've said. And they have a pretty good weight. I think the Trill ones, they're a little bit more expensive, but they also have a little bit more weight. So I will get a set of Trill and do a comparison of the SSD to Trill. And by the way, all these are the same length, so it doesn't matter which one you put where. As you can see, that just threads in nicely. No dramas with that. I don't do them up too tight at first. It's because sometimes it puts it on an angle and then you can't get your bolt in. It won't go in the thread. Or you may have a chance of cross threading, but you don't want to do that. And I always do a diagonal. Generally pulls it nice and even. Also doesn't give you any dramas, because if you do both on one side, it can tend to pull that little bit more than you want it to. So even when doing up your wheel nuts, always do them diagonals. And tightens up beautiful. Still no dramas. That thread there is a little bit tighter than the other two. So there you go. That could be the first problem. One of the threads haven't been threaded 100% there. As you can hear how tight that is. Actually, it doesn't feel that tight as if you're stripping it. It just feels like you're cutting a thread. So I think that might just be a little thread issue there. Still didn't seem to be a problem. At least you know that one's going to be nice and tight and wouldn't have a chance of coming loose. You probably should have put a bit of Loctite on it, but I don't think the Loctite would work since I put a lot of grease in there. I use marine grease, the Penrite marine bearing grease, and I use that even in my bashes, the gearboxes, diffs, the lot, just the marine grease. It's good water repellent to all the material and doesn't get too thin and ooze out everywhere, but also if you don't overkill it, you won't have that problem either. So you just put enough in there. I usually put a little bit in the tubes too, just to stop any water from traveling down in here. And this area is usually pretty good because it is a nice fit with the SSD, so you don't really have any dramas of water going in there. But always make sure they're nice and tight. And being the metal on plastic gives it that really good seal. So I know just about everybody with a trail truck will go through water, whether it's deep, shallow, it wouldn't matter. We'll go through some puddles and potentially bog them. Alright, there we go. That's all the brass for the rear, the pumpkin and the link mounts. Pretty simply done, no too difficult dramas. I took the tail shaft off only because it gives you a bit easier access into there. Another thing you should always do when putting your tail shafts on and off, a lot of people forget, you should always phase them. So that pin is facing up where the start of the head is in the screw. If you see that there, that screw is up. So what I'm going to do here is keep it like that up here as well. It just keeps your transmission running much smoother. You don't want any of your drive line having any vibrations and stuff. So when these little universals in here, when they're turning and stuff, you want them all turning in sequence, and that's what this does, keeps it turning true. And you won't get much vibration and things like that. Always check that too with every rig you have, and you'll always have no dramas. There we are. Doesn't hurt to check them every now and again. Always make sure your stuff's nice and tight. Say this one's tight. Difficult to even get there. There we go. May as well whilst you're sitting here. Oh, see, that one was a touch loose there. Good to know. Nice and tight. Nice and tight. I did check these 2 days ago, so they should still be good. But we'll see how it goes. And I am running single stage foams with a vented rim. It's quite a firm single stage foam. A little bit firmer in the rear than the front, because as I'm climbing I want that front end to really work and pull me up that hill. So I get them that bit softer, so when it does get to a rock, because it has less weight on it when you're climbing, the rock tends to not conform if you have the same foam as the rear. So if you put the front that bit softer, I like to keep it soft, and that way when you're getting up over those rocks and you really want it to grab, it'll just grab on that rock and pull you up. Kind of lowers the front that little bit more too for when you're climbing. What is going on here? Bloody nut fell out. There we are, nice and tight. Check that one. Check that one. And that one. Don't run the body clip in the rear, because it is a bit of a pain in the backside to get these body clips in and out at the back there. Just run a little hook, a little bit of elastic. Done. Another thing I like about the cage, you can just undo that. Straight open, full access to everything. The other pain in the backside, I did install some lights on the cage on the front, which I'll show you as those. It's a little light bar, 2 little lights that actually mount on the side, so you can actually loop around the bar. So even if you've got bull bars and stuff, you can just loop it around your bull bar. Any size, you cut the tab down to size for the mounting, and you're done. They're nice. Look good too, pretty bright. Yeah, and that's what it looks like from the rear. Nice shiny diff cover there. Same as you can just see the tops. So it looks quite nice. Same as the front. Looks pretty tidy. Not really any bumps there. Not too bad articulation. So yeah, we'll have to give her a tester, take her out on the course and see how she goes. Thanks for listening, guys. Hope to see you on the next video.